All right. I am hoping that this is streaming live. It is 7 o'clock, so we are right on time, as I said we would be. And today we are going to do a deep dive into the data that you want to know about. Now, in the past and recently, I did a deep dive into the data that exists in my hyper local market. And I want to expand. I want to go macro. I want to answer your questions about any housing market that exists within the country. Now, it is true that I am a boots on the ground operator of a high performance team down here in Southeast Palm Beach County. But many of you who are shopping, many of you who are thinking about buying or thinking about selling, considering investing in real estate in other markets, you want to know, and you want to know the truth about what's happening in those markets. So today and in the future, I am committed to sharing that information with you. And as you know, I'm committed to sharing the truth about what's happening in each market so that you've got the granular information to be able to advocate and negotiate for yourself the right way. Because I watch so many other realtors, real estate agents, real estate professionals go out there and push the narrative that real estate only trades higher, that it is a one-trick pony, and that trick is appreciation, and it never stops. Well, that is absolutely not my experience, having been a stockbroker for 20 years. So I've seen bull markets, I've seen bear markets, I've profited greatly in both. In fact, I've made the most money for my clients when there was extreme volatility in the market. Now, housing doesn't trade the same way equities do. And so I'm not a financial advisor. I do feel I have a fiduciary responsibility to tell you the truth so that you get what you want. But today we're going to do a deep dive into the data, and I'll share some of the links to the service providers that I use, and we'll be able to compare and contrast the reality of the market versus the perception of the market. And I'm happy to answer any questions about any market that you want to. So leave a comment, I will respond. And right now I've got Florida Beach Bum talking about the Space Coast. So shout out to Florida Beach Bum for leaving a comment. And we've got Elsa out there. And also, so Elsa, thank you. I appreciate you watching and pivoting over from the Kevin 24/7 video that we did earlier. Unfortunately, the audio and video quality for that piece of content was obviously not the greatest, but you stuck around, and I appreciate that. I love you for it, and I'm here to serve and support you at the highest level with anything I can possibly do. And I love you all. I am thoroughly thankful and blessed for all of you who reached out to me in regards to my parents, specifically my dad and his emergency. Thank God he is fine. He is on the uptick. He feels like he's born again, has more energy, and I'm really looking at the surgery that he had, or the procedure that he had, as being a miracle, because he had been suffering greatly for a long time, and it seems as though the procedure really impacted all of his symptoms that he was suffering from. So he's got a lot more energy. He seems like a younger version of himself, and we are truly blessed by that, because I want my dad to enjoy life. I want him to enjoy his golden years, and for a while now, he's been unable to do so the way he wants, and I'm hopeful that he will make a full recovery and be back at it so he can play with his grandkids, and experience life, optimize life, and enjoy life. So yeah, parents aging is not fun, but talking about the housing market is fun. So let's get into that right now. Now, if you happen to catch my most recent live stream, then you know that I've covered most of the main cities that exist in Palm Beach County, as well as some of them that exist in Broward. So I'm going to start hyper locally in a few of the local markets that I did not cover in that video. And then from there, we'll go macro. We'll cover different areas of the state, different areas of the country, and let's get after it right now. So I'm going to share that screen. But also shout out to Kevin 24/7 and Squirrel Tribe and Squirrel Tribe 2.0. Kevin and Michelle are the best of the best. And if you have not checked out their channel, please do, because they are committed to sharing their journey, and they tell the truth. They provide tremendous value to their friends / subscribers, and they've built something really special over there. Separate to that, but also included in that, is Kevin's brother, which is Ron Yates. Please check out his channel too, because he is another content creator that is just unbelievable. The generosity that they have shown me, the friendship that they have shown me, and we are looking to help everybody level up in their pursuit of more. And when I say more, I'm talking about more happiness, more really more connection. Obviously, we want to serve and support you. I want to serve and support you with the best information as it relates to the real estate market, but I'm not one-dimensional. I've got a lot more to share than that. So we will march forward, onward and upward. My thoughts on Parkland. All right, so I'm going to cover all of these things. And Danny, I actually covered Parkland previously, but I have no problem sharing a little bit more with it now, or about it now. Parkland, I am biased because I remember what it used to be like living in Parkland. I grew up in Parkland. When I lived there, I had moved from Coral Springs. I was one of the first graduating, actually, I was the second graduating class from Stoneman Douglas back in '93. And when I lived there, almost all of that area was the Everglades. It was all undeveloped. It was wide open, and it looked very different than what it looks like today. Today, it has a very different feel. It is nothing like what it was when I lived there. And frankly, I think there's now, no realtor is going to share about this, but that's the truth. There is still this has nothing to do with the housing market itself. I'll get into that. But one of the things that I have seen firsthand is that many of the families who had older children that were in school that were affected by the shooting that happened at Douglas, many of them had younger siblings. And now, anytime there's a code red or emergency, there's a procedure that happens, and a lockdown and a drill, and that happens everywhere now. Now it's a common practice. But I share that because there's a lot of PTSD that happens in those communities for those families. And when they notify and send out the mass texts to everybody and the mass phone calls to everybody, it triggers a lot of emotional disturbance in many of those families that were affected. And my heart goes out to all of those folks. Actually, I didn't think I was going to talk about any of this stuff, but one of the coaches who was murdered in that, I actually coached. And so I am very connected with that community, with that school, with the families that are there. But enough about that. So it's a watch out, right? So I feel a responsibility to share that with anybody who's moving to that area, and just let them know that it's something that's real, and let them decide if that's something that they choose to take on or not. I can tell you from my own experience that, I've got 8 and 9-year-old daughters. If I had the choice, I would probably elect not to expose them to that, but that's a personal decision that I've made, and other people may feel differently. Okay, here we go. We are going to go into BB21 says, get on with it. Shut your yapper. Although he didn't say it that way. So let's see here. So I'm going to start in Lake Worth, and I'm assuming that you can see the screen. So we're in Palm Beach County, right? We're looking at residential single-family homes. And normally when I do these videos, I start with the cities that I do the most business in. Lake Worth is one of the cities I do business in, but it tends to be a more affordable price point. Now, we all know that prices have skyrocketed in Florida, so they're expensive everywhere relative to the last few years. Homeowners are sitting on a metric shit ton of equity, but Lake Worth, you can find undervalued situations for investment. They do not have many of the same restrictions as far as Airbnbs go, or VBROs go. So there are opportunities that exist in Lake Worth. There are lower price points that exist in Lake Worth. And each market, obviously, within Lake Worth is going to trade differently with its own intensity of supply and demand and price points. But let's talk about the overall macro number, right? So we are, 18 days into September, right? That's a pretty decent sample size, although we're, not exactly all the way through the month. But the data that I'm sharing is current up to yesterday. What you can see on the bottom of the screen where I am pointing the arrow is that the average active price relative to the same period last month is down 3.1%. But that's what a seller wants. That's where they listed. That's the average active listed price. So not particularly instructive, although it does tell me that perhaps they're waking up to the fact that their expectations around pricing are a little bit too high. That being said, the market has spoken, and the average sold price is up 2.2% from $589 in the first 17 days of last month to $602 in the first 17 days of September. So what does that tell me? Well, let's go into the details here a little bit and look at the supply of inventory. And what you can see is that so far this month, the month supply of inventory is up almost 50% from 2 months in the first 17 days of last month to 3 months now. 3 months is still a seller's market, period. And there are lots more opportunities that exist for you to be able to leverage and negotiate a better deal. There are not anywhere near as many buyers that are out there shopping. And again, this is macro. So depending on where you're looking at, the intensity of supply and demand is going to change. But that's Lake Worth in a nutshell. Lingering cough here. Let's see here. So we got Parkland, got the Space Coast. I'm going to jump back to Parkland because we got 23 viewers are live with me now. I appreciate that, and I love you all for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, like it. It helps the algorithm, and I'm looking to help as many people as I possibly can. Okay, so now we're going back to Lake Worth, but we're going to pivot to Parkland because I said I would. And I will do this briefly because I've already done it in my last live stream. But not too many people watch that live stream. So let's see, where is Parkland? I'm in the wrong. Chris, you should know better. You know it's not Palm Beach County. You know it's Broward. Everybody knows it's Broward. So we are going to residential single family homes in Parkland. And what do we find? Dun, 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 dun. Boom! We are in Broward County. We are in Parkland. We're looking at single family homes, and pow, right in the kisser. Average sold price in the first 17 days of this month is down 6.3% from 1.291 million to 1.210 million. Average active price is up 4.1%. So from 1545 to 1608, which tells me we've got a divergent market, and sellers are obviously having a different opinion of what their home is valued at. The reality of it is anybody thinking about selling must know that your home is only worth what a ready, willing buyer is prepared to pay right now, period. And what you think about your home's value, what I think about your home's value, what anybody else thinks about your home's value is completely irrelevant. It's totally meaningless. Nobody cares. The market does not care. The market does not have feelings. The market is always right. And so far, at least as of the first 17 days of September, the market is clearly telling us that it's on the downtick, and the sellers have an overvalued opinion of what their homes are worth. And I'm aware that this is a macro picture. There are some high price points that distort the average active price, but we'll cover that more in a different video. Okay, so let's see here. Lots of comments. I love it. Port St. Lucie is building like crazy. Bradley J, thank you for leaving a comment. Most of us can barely afford to rent an apartment. How do the prices stay this high? That is a great question. And the reality of it is supply and demand is always going to dictate price. Now, I know they are building lots of different apartment complexes and communities in many markets that are in the state of Florida. I visit Orlando and Kissimmee, or is it Kissimmee? I may be saying it wrong. I always get yelled at by the locals for mispronouncing mispronouncing the way it's supposed to be said. I think I called Brevard. What did I call it? Brevard. I messed it up. Look, I've been a resident of Florida for damn near 40 years. I'm originally from New Jersey. If that makes me a damn Yankee, well, then I guess I'm a damn Yankee. And many of you who watched my I'm leaving Florida video seem to think that I need to go back to wherever the hell I came from and wish me bad riddance in my travels. I ain't going anywhere. You're not getting rid of me. I love Florida. I love living in Florida. Okay, Boca with the pool, 600 or less, realistic or not? Well, Boca's going to be difficult for you to find a single family home for 600 or less, but not impossible, right? So I suspect, especially as the pain of recession worsens, you're going to find more opportunities, more stale listings that exist, and you will have leverage in order to be able to purchase something close to that. I'll give an example, and it's not Boca, but it's close. I'm working with some clients right now who their contract to purchase the home that we have them under contract never in a million years would have been accepted a year ago. But today, because the market has changed, we did have the opportunity to find their dream home and dream lifestyle. They had two properties to sell. One was a townhome, one was a condo. And they were, at first, their big fear was, is anybody going to buy these properties in the market that we're in? And in less than a day, we had multiple offers which bid the price higher. I set a record in both communities for their product type. And quickly, we got resolution as to what the market is in terms of selling their properties. And I knew exactly what it was going to be. But we found the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more than anybody else for both properties. From there, their next concern was, oh shit, am I going to be homeless? Am I going to find my dream home? And they had sticker shock when they started running the numbers and started to look at property taxes and property insurance. They didn't really have a clue what they were looking at. And that's not a knock on them. Most people don't know how to run what the new taxes will be. And I'm here to tell you, in order to find that, it's really easy. You can go to the Broward or the Palm Beach property appraiser site, and you can click on the property that you're interested in and just follow the instructions as to their tax estimator or tax calculator. And it will tell you with fairly good accuracy. It may be off by a few dollars in either direction, but it's going to tell you exactly what your new taxes, your new property taxes are going to be. Most people don't know that exists. So it's very helpful when you're shopping to know what those costs will be. Any good realtor should be telling you what they're going to be in advance, but not every realtor is a real estate professional. And I got to be careful because I don't want to get heat from the Realtor Association for using the name the wrong way. I have tons of respect for realtors. However, there are lots of them out there. In my market, there are 40,000 agents, and of that, only 1,000 do 10 deals or more a year. If you're working with one of those 39,000 that don't know their ass from their elbow, they're probably not giving you the right information that you need in order to make a decision to to purchase a home, right? So I want you to have the best information in order to make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. Okay, so looking at the comments here, we got Elsa, we got Danny, we got BB21, we got Silvio. Hell yeah, my man. I see you in the comments all the time, and I'm glad to see you here now. Wilbur Candell, Palm Coast, please. You got it. I think I got. Whoa, what's up, G Val? What's up, Hand of God for a New Life? Hand of God for a New Life. Craig Rose. Are we ever going to get to it? Yeah, we got to it, pal. Put your guns back in your holster, my friend, and be patient. Patience is a virtue. All right, so we're going back to Parkland. And from here, you know what? We've seen enough hyper-local information. If you want to know more hyper-local information in my market, please reach out. I will absolutely be happy to serve and support you at the highest level. But I suspect there are lots of folks out there that want to see more information in markets that I am not in. So I'm going to pivot now. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to start sharing another one, which is linked in the description of this video. It is an affiliate link, full disclosure. So I think I make a whopping $1 if you were to sign up and use it. But I'm also fairly certain that they offer a free trial. So check it out, see if it's of value to you, and we will get into that right now. Okay. No, I don't want that. No, I don't want that. So some of this information that we're looking at here doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. But if we're doing an analysis, or if we're doing a walkthrough into the real estate insights that are provided through SnapForce, well, you can, I hope you can understand that the country is not broken into markets in the way that this is color coded, right? So there are more than 1, 2, 3, 4 housing markets that exist, and more regions that exist in the United States. But this is the way this is broken down, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it. What I think is probably much more useful is and I hope this is the one. Come on, computer. Don't be so slow. We're doing a live stream, for crying out loud. Ain't nobody got time to wait. Okay. Average price reduction by county year over year, August 2022 versus August 2023. Now, we all know that it is September 18th. So August is not particularly helpful if you are shopping in any of these metros, period, because the information is lagging. It is, I don't want to say it's useless, it is instructive. So I am going to share it. But if you are thinking about buying or selling in any one of these metros, anywhere in the United States, please reach out to me, because I will connect you with someone who is hyper local in that market that absolutely can advocate for you the right way, that understands how to use leverage to get you what you want. They can negotiate for you the right way if you're buying. They know how to list and sell your home to create a market within a market in order to find the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more than anybody else in any market. And I have vetted them personally. I know them, like them, trust them, and I would never make a connection with someone who did not know how to do those things. So please reach out if that is useful to you. I would love to help. But this is the entire United States, and this is good content, or excuse me, this is a valuable app. There are other apps out there that are similar. I find this to be one of the better ones. But for example, Reventure Consulting has an app that uses Zillow data. It is very cool. It has all the bells and whistles, and graphically, it is light years above SnapForce. But I also think that SnapForce is a little bit more current, and it is a little bit more timely, and not a knock on either one of those. But RJ Talks is the YouTube channel which distributes this link and created this link. It is useful information. He puts out great content. Reventure also puts out great content. I don't necessarily agree with the things that he says, and I definitely have a different take on what's going on in the housing market, but it is absolutely not a knock on him. Everybody has their own opinion, and opinions are like a-holes. Everyone has one, and they all stink, at least according to my old football coach. Delray and Jupiter, Juliet, I covered that in my last live stream. I will come back to that, but we've kind of moved past the hyperlocal market for now. And you can find the last live stream I know is in the channel. I think it's the last video on my homepage, but I'll send you that link so you will find it, and I'll get you the information. But where were we? We're at SnapForce, right? Okay. So many of you in the comment section have asked for other markets within the state of Florida. And so let's start there, and then we can go wider. In fact, this might not be the best tool. Let's look at the home value forecast by zip code within the Southeast quadrant of the country, but we're going to just look at Florida for now and then go from there. So I'm going to start with the Zillow home value forecast by zip code. Now, you can't help but notice it's from June 2024. That tells me that what we're looking at is completely obsolete and the market has absolutely changed. So one of the things that I take umbrage with many of these other portals, like Zillow, like Redfin, like any of them, they're all lagging information. And many of the content creators that build out apps around that information, although it is really graphically pleasing and very cool, it's old. And so I don't want anybody to think this is what the current market conditions are. They're not. It is now September. This is June of 2024. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. And now I remember why I didn't start with this slide. But let's get some context, right? So my market is over here in the Southeast. And let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. But the only city that's listed here is Miami. And the zip code for Miami that they have listed is 33137. And their forecast for July of 2023, September of 2023, and June of 2024, obviously that's next year, the growth rate that they see in this market is 8.5% over the course of the next year. So all of the doom and gloom prognosticators that are out there telling you that the market is going to fall off a cliff and collapse, myself included, are still predicting single-digit growth in most markets within the state of Florida. Now, I know for certain, based on experience, that when the unfortunate reality of the economic policies that have been put in place come due, there is going to be hell to pay in the markets. And some markets are still going to be insulated due to supply and demand, period. I happen to think Florida is one of them. I happen to think Southeast Florida is more insulated than many other markets. But I think the same thing about Southwest Florida. If, God forbid, they start playing games with restrictions and COVID and they start to enact any type of restrictions or lockdowns, I can promise you that Florida is going to see a massive spike in inflows, in inbound population, and the market will be off to the races. But I just realized that the The Zillow forecast by zip code wasn't June of 2023, it was June of 2024. So disregard some of what I said before. But let's work our way up the East Coast. So we go from Miami, and let's see here. So Dania Beach market forecast for the next month, 3 months, and year is 1%, 2%, and almost 7%. That is not a crash. That is single digit growth, which is what I have personally been calling for the last year. Fort Lauderdale, same thing, 1%, 2.2, and 7.3% a year out. Well, this is very discouraging news if you're thinking about buying a home and you're looking to time the market for the crash. According to Zillow, which I do not put a whole lot of faith and confidence in, the market is going to appreciate by 7.3% in this particular zip code of Fort Lauderdale. Maybe they're right. I don't know, yet to be determined, but I suspect they're not too far off. Let's move up the list. Pompano Beach, same thing, 1%, almost 2%, 7.1% appreciation over the course of the next year. Deerfield, same thing, almost the exact same numbers. But if you look at the peak to current, you can also notice that it's up 5 almost 6%. No visible evidence of a housing market crash really anywhere on the southeast or southwest coasts yet. However, these are still macro numbers. And I know that in the hyperlocal markets, I've yet to see any evidence of a crash, but I've absolutely found evidence of deals. I don't think I finished the story about the buyers that I'm working with. When they found their dream home in Coconut Creek, we happened to be in the right place at the right time, stalking that particular type of home, and it fell out of contract. So it was listed, it was under contract. The buyer who they were under contract with did not get funding. So whoever they worked with did not do their due diligence on the mortgage side. I suspect the realtor did not do the due diligence in terms of qualifying them the right way, did not run the numbers as to what it looks like to be able to purchase this home in a rising mortgage interest rate market. They didn't do their job. And when it came time to close, they did not get the funding. So they lost their dream home. My clients were able to negotiate their dream home. And because the real estate professional who is listing the property did something which almost knocked me down because it's been so long since it happened, but they answered their phone and we had a conversation. We got into rapport, we created a connection, and I was able to articulate the position that there are 2 property sale contingencies that are associated with this purchase. Well, that never would have been accepted a year ago or 2 years ago. Nobody is going to no seller in that frenzy of a market was going to accept the purchase contract that had a home sale contingency with it. But because the market's changed and I was able to articulate the value proposition of these 2 sales, and that were past the contingency periods in those sales, so there is no risk of them accepting our contract. We got it under contract and everybody's happy. But not everybody knows how to do that. And not everybody picks up their phone. Not everybody is willing and wants to create rapport. And that's a shame, because the easiest way to improve your business and have more success in any sales job is have more conversations, have higher quality conversations, solve folks' pain points, and you will get more business done. All right, Boca Raton. Basically, I'm not going to even waste my time going up this because it's essentially the same forecast all the way up the coast, going into West Palm. I'll zoom out. And Space Coast, so Cape Canaveral, a little bit less appreciation, but 1%, 1.4%, almost 6% going out a year. Cocoa Beach, similar. Flat in July, 0.5% in September, almost 5% a year out. As I mentioned, each market is going to trade differently, but we're looking at single-digit growth across the board so far. If there are outliers, I'm going to point them out. If anything changes in real time, I'm going to point them out. But if we go to Boca real quick, I know somebody talked about Boca earlier. Where's Boca? I just saw you. Okay. So Boca Raton, right? GL Homes right now, one of the premier builders in my market is building out Lotus Palm. Lotus Palm is a resort style community of affluent, of affluence. They're high price points. These homes are incredible. But GL is negotiating for the rights to rezone and build more homes on some land that has been challenged by the municipality. And they've been fighting for this and negotiating for it for well over a year. I'm almost positive that they got the rights to do so, but we're starting to see, because of the scarcity of land in many places in my market, some of those farms, some of that agricultural land, some of that land that is quote unquote preserved get sold. And so there's a whole stretch of land off of 441 on the west side of both of Palm Beach County in my market, where you're right next to the Everglades, and much of that land, which is farm and or agricultural, is going to be developed. It's going to be maxed out. The builders are going to find the highest and best use for that land, and money talks and bullshit walks. Many of those farmers and many of those land owners are going to take the payoff because the payoffs have become so extreme. And that's just the way it is. But there's still not a lot of opportunities for that to happen. But if we're talking about Lotus Palm, it's being built on what was a municipal golf course. GL came in, saw the opportunity, and negotiated the rights to buy it. And they're doing the same thing now up in a new market in Avenir. And let me find where that is. They're building brand new communities up in, it's called Apex at Avenir. And these are lower price points relative to what they're building in Boca. But their range, and I'm using this for context because the sales force is not talking about what the pricing is on those homes at all. Mum's the word, which is not unusual. They never tell you what the prices are until they actually start selling. And the reason for that is they don't want to be locked into a certain pricing model because the market's going to change when they actually start selling. And they don't want to be locked into a lower number than they have to. So although they've provided a range and the price ranges are a little bit more affordable than they are in Boca Raton, they're still expensive, but you can get a starter, I call it a starter home. It sounds stupid to say a starter home for $700,000, but their lowest entry level property in their range so far is in the 700s. It goes much higher, but that same home in Lotus Palm is going to be starting at somewhere in the millions. So they're finding opportunities to develop certain areas that were maybe a little bit less desirable in the past, but now they're the only place left to develop. And what they've done up in Avenir, it is incredible. And we've got clients already lined up looking to register in those neighborhoods. Now, what I would advise you, if you're thinking about buying from a builder, there is a very different demand in Port St. Lucie. There is very different demand in other markets. In my markets, there is still robust demand from buyers from around the country and around the world who want to be in South Palm Beach County. They must be in an area that has certain things. And Port St. Lucie is very different than where I live in my hyperlocal market, which the demand that I'm seeing in Port St. Lucie for certain new construction sites has fallen off a cliff. And you can shop and negotiate with the builder in ways that you never were able to do before. That includes every seller, not just builders. So there are things you can do if you've got leverage and understand the market to buy down your interest rates to create better deals for yourself. You just need to be working with the right professional who understands what the leverage is. And unfortunately, in Apex and Avenir and in Lotus Palm, GL has all the leverage, so there is no negotiation. They know that. All right, so Palm Beach Gardens and basically all the way up going into Cape Canaveral, you can expect somewhere between 1% and 2% appreciation. And again, this is old, so it's talking about July. It's talking so a month forecast, 3 months, and then a year, but 6% going into 2024. Let's look at Orlando. Interesting. 0.6% in July, 1.3% in September, and 5% going out a year or just under a year. Interesting. Let's jump over to Tampa. Where are you at, Tampa? Well, let's start at St. Pete. Okay, so St. Pete, we're looking at half a percentage point, right, in terms of forecasting. 1% in terms of this month. 6% in terms of appreciation going out a year. And that's what it is. Sarasota. Okay. I know a lot of you have talked about wanting to know about what's happening in Sarasota. Half a percentage point in July of appreciation. 1% in September. September's not over, but that's what they have. 5.5% appreciation going out a year. What have I been talking about for the last year? Since the Fed started their tightening policy, and I knew that the market was going to change, I've still accurately predicted single-digit growth across the board in most markets that I service. And again, all bets are off if they start doing things with restrictions, because then it'll be back to double-digit growth quickly. Also, what is the Fed talking about as of today? They're talking about lowering the Fed funds rates. Well, that's interesting. I've been talking about them doing whatever they must do to incentivize the market, to juice the markets, to have something they can point to as a win economically in order to have something to point to get elected, because we're going into election season. So it would not surprise me if they lower mortgage interest. Well, I'll take that back. If they lower Fed funds rates, which then have an impact on mortgage interest rates and bring them down. And if that happens, well, then all of these predictions are going to be wrong, because if they juice the market and they make it more desirable for a buyer to buy a home and a seller to sell a home, well, then the real estate market in Florida is not going to get decimated. It's not going to fall off a cliff. It's going to explode and create a much bigger bubble than we've ever seen. But time will tell. All right, that's Sarasota. And by the way, if they do that, that is not good. I am a real estate professional who gets paid to help people buy and sell homes. I'm also a citizen. I'm also aware that the games they are playing are no bueno to our grandchildren, to our future generations. There needs to be some pain felt. There needs to be a great reckoning, and we need to take care of business, hopefully in a peaceful way, but there's going to be extreme volatility in most markets. I'm not talking about housing at first, but I suspect that we're going to see things we have never seen before. I think the next bailout is going to make the last one look cute. But enough of my opinion on what the economic conditions are, what they might be, because I'm not an economist. I'm just a washed up has-been stockbroker who is now a real estate professional. Fort Myers. All right. So 1 month, 3 month, and 1 year forecast, 0.6%, 1.2%, and 5.3%, which takes us to Naples. And what do we see? Half a percentage point in terms of a month. Again, this is old. September, 1.2%. a year out, almost 7% of appreciation. Again, we're talking about 7% appreciation, well above historical norms. Certainly not what it was during the frenzy, unless, of course, there's a new frenzy. All right. Marco Island. I don't think I covered that yet. Marco Island, we're talking about little bit over 0.2% in July, 0.6% in September, and 6.4% appreciation a year out. But peak to current, it's down 3.2%, down $30,000. But again, this is not necessarily the most current information. And why not talk about Homestead since it's there? So Homestead, now we're down in Broward. Actually, no, we're down in Dade. And we've got 1.8% appreciation, 3.6%. And the first one where I see double-digit appreciation, according to Zillow, which again, I don't trust very much. Nonetheless, 11% double-digit appreciation being called for, being predicted, being forecast a year out. Not too shabby. All right, let me look at these comments here and see. Can I take a look into Plantation? Silvio, you bet your sweet bippy I can do Plantation. So I'm going to jump out of the screen I was in and share this screen instead. And we're going to talk about Plantation because although I know I've covered it sometime recently, I don't exactly remember when. And I want you to see what's happening right now. All right. So we are in Broward. We are in Plantation. We are looking at residential single family homes. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right stuff. And what do we see? Average sold price essentially flat when compared to last month in the same time period, up 0.1%. So again, that's better than a sharp stick in the eye. It's certainly down better than a downtick. If you own a home there, but if you're shopping, you probably want a big downtick, like we see in average active price, which is down 6%. Well, Chris, how is it possible that the average active listing price is so much higher than the average sold price? I'm glad you asked that question, but what we can't help but notice is it's down 6%, down from 1.332 to 1.252. And this is a macro picture. So within Plantation, there are some very exclusive affluent areas that have very high price points. It distorts what the average active price is. But I suspect, like many places, like Fort Lauderdale, like Parkland and others, there are markets which have distorted numbers when I go through these slides because there are very high price point listings that are sitting on the market unsold, and it distorts those numbers. So in order to know what's happening in the market that you're shopping in, you need to be working with somebody who understands that hyperlocal market and has access to that information and then knows what to do with that information. So if anybody ever needs help with any of that, please reach out because we would love to help. But that's what it is as of right now. Well, not right now, as of yesterday, which is the most current information that you're going to find. All right, let me go back over here. And I did cover Orlando. I did cover Marco Island. Phil Marsh, the housing market won't crash before a severe stock market crash. The housing won't look like such a good investment. Well, that's an interesting point. And yeah, the stock market is a leading market, right? So it prices in change in real time. And so if you've watched any of my previous videos talking about what that looks like, here's what my prediction is. When the housing market gets, when the stock market gets eviscerated, when they price in change in real time, like during the great financial crisis, I believe it took 3 years for the housing market to start to show the impact of that. in the housing market. And then it took another 3 years for it to be fully absorbed and priced in. So if you were to time what it looks like for the housing market to catch up to the stock market, I would say at minimum, there's going to be a 3 year lag. Could be five, could be six, yet to be determined, but it's going to happen 100%. My big question is, are the distressed homes that banks have the ability to sell, are they ever going to see the light of day? Or are they going to go straight to the institutional buyers, package them and sell them? Will they ever see the market like they did the last time? I don't know. I don't think so, frankly, because I see what institutions are doing and I see the capitalization of some of these big institutions and what they say they're going to do. There is a metric shit ton of equity that is being earmarked for when these things happen. So I don't know that the general public is ever going to have access to these distressed quote I'm back. I'm back, I think. All right. Well, there are 16 of you that are still there, and I appreciate it. This is getting real glitchy. I don't exactly know what happened. Well, that's not true. I do know what happened. The power went out. So I don't know if I talked about too many sensitive things and they are trying to shut me down, or if it's just that we're having an electrical storm and the power grid blew. But for a minute there, obviously, I had no connection. And what I learned is that although I do have what I thought were redundant energy sources, which would ensure that this would never happen, they don't work because I just lost power everywhere. And I believe I lost the live stream. So thank you for sticking there. For you 15 folks who are still watching, I appreciate it. Let's get right back into it. Okay. I forget exactly where I was in whatever it was that we were talking about. I think somebody asked for a market that promised that I would talk about. So Plantation, I did that. Juliet, another rate hike. Yeah, there are going to be more rate hikes, no doubt about it. But that does not mean that in the near term that they won't play games and lower the Fed funds rates and also offer some sort of inducement to point to get themselves reelected. So I would not be surprised if the next time there is a quote unquote crisis, there is not a big push towards some type of digital currency. And my fear is that if it is on one ledger and it's controlled by, I don't know, not even it's JP Morgan or one of the critically important banks. Well, then that just means that although it might be window dressing, that it's not the government who owns the ledger or has access to the ledger. That's total bullshit. It's absolutely 100% going to be. So I hope nobody falls for that. But if there is some sort of bailout or tax credit or some unusual financial thing that happens in order to come in and swoop in and save the day, well, just know that that needs to be vetted and understood very well by the general public before they actually commit to it. Because if we give away that control, we will never get it back. And I don't want to go into sense. I want to stick with the facts because all right, you know what? I'm going to back on live streams in the future. So be on the open to talk about everything. I hope you found this content to be valuable. My power grid is not valuable, and neither are my redundant backup systems. So check out my next video. If I can ever serve or support you in your needs for anything, anywhere, please reach out because we would love to help. But I do not trust. And so until next time.